Some people walk through fire without flinching. A bad day at work? They stay calm. Someone disrespects them? Not even a blink. Life throws curveballs, and they keep moving like nothing happened. It looks effortless, almost supernatural. But is it really? Meanwhile, the rest of us get thrown off course by the tiniest disruption. A strange tone in a text. A rude driver. A thoughtless comment online. Suddenly, our mood crashes. We're irritated, overthinking, spiraling, and deep down, it feels like we have no control over it. But here's the truth. You do have control. You just haven't learned how to access it. Those calm, unshakable people, they aren't immune to chaos. They've just learned something ancient and powerful, something the Stoics knew thousands of years ago. When you stop letting the outside world decide how you feel inside, you become untouchable. That's what this video is about. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about reclaiming the space between stimulus and response. It's about learning how to stop giving your energy to every little thing that pokes at your peace. It's about practicing emotional strength and living with real, unshakable calm. If that sounds like the kind of power you've been looking for, then do one small thing right now. Hit subscribe. It's free, and it tells us this message matters to you. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to consider that most of what upsets you isn't actually about what happened? It's about the story you tell yourself about what happened. Think about it. Someone delays replying to your message. Immediately, your mind jumps in. Did I do something wrong? Are they mad? Am I being ignored? You spiral. But did they actually do anything wrong? Or did you just assign meaning to their silence? This is the trap most of us fall into every day. The ancient Stoics put it simply. It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about those things. This wasn't just philosophy. It was ancient psychology. Let's take a modern example. You're at the gym. Someone frowns in your direction. Instantly, your brain launches into overdrive. Are they judging me? Do I look weird? Am I doing this wrong? But maybe they weren't even looking at you. Maybe they were thinking about something completely unrelated. Still, your day is affected. Not by what happened, but by the story you wrote about it. Carl Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You're not reacting to the world. You're reacting to your interpretations, shaped by old wounds, fears, and assumptions. When your heart has been broken, love feels suspicious. When you've been criticized, every comment feels like judgment. That's not clarity. That's a cracked lens distorting reality. Socrates warned us, the unexamined life is not worth living. And he wasn't talking about abstract theory. He meant that unless you examine how you're seeing the world, you'll keep living in a cycle of reaction. Every slight, every look, every delay, they all become personal. But here's the good news. You can break the cycle. You can pause. You can observe the thought before you believe it. And in that pause, you take back control. Aristotle nailed it when he said, anyone can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. This is emotional mastery. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about understanding it. It's about giving yourself enough space to decide, is this really about them? Or is this touching something inside me? Because the moment you ask that, everything changes. Instead of being a puppet pulled by your triggers, you become the one holding the strings. Plato believed that reality is but a shadow of truth. And if that's true, then every reaction is just a shadow of a belief you hold. So, next time you're spiraling, ask yourself, is this real? Or is this just my interpretation? And if it is just a story, do you still want to keep telling it? The people who remain calm under pressure aren't born that way. They're just practiced. They've trained themselves to pause, to question, to choose their responses instead of handing them over to the world. And with every pause, they gain something. That pause becomes peace. That peace becomes strength. And that strength becomes quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. And here's the best part. This power is available to you. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. Every time you stop yourself from spiraling, every time you pause before reacting, every time you challenge the story instead of swallowing it whole, you reclaim your mind. So, next time someone pushes your buttons, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What inside me is letting this affect me?" That question is the doorway to real freedom. The Stoics weren't trying to erase emotion. They were teaching us to master it, to feel deeply, but not be controlled, to stay grounded, no matter how loud the world gets. And once you learn that skill, nothing and no one can steal your peace again. That's real freedom. That's real power. And that's what you came here to learn. Let's continue where we left off, because now that you've begun to challenge comfort and take control, it's time to look at the deeper force that truly runs your life: your reactions. Habit number 4, unplug the control panel. Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Who really holds the power over you? Now imagine this. There's a giant control panel strapped to your chest. Every button is labeled insecurity, anger, fear, jealousy, guilt. And everyone around you knows exactly which one to press. One wrong word, one offhand look, and boom, you're spiraling. Your peace? Gone. Your power? Hijacked. That's how most people live: exposed, vulnerable, easy to provoke. But now, picture something else. What if you could unplug that control panel completely? What if someone tried to insult you and you just didn't flinch? What if you didn't feel the need to clap back, defend your name, or prove a point? Not because you don't care, but because you're anchored. Because your peace no longer depends on anyone else. That's not indifference. That's mastery. Socrates once said, "He who is not a good servant will not be a good master." If you can't master your emotions, how can you lead your life with any clarity? Unplugging from the need to react, that's where your freedom begins. You're not overanalyzing texts. You're not getting dragged into gossip. You're not taking things personally that were never really about you in the first place. Instead, you become like a rock in a storm. Steady, calm, solid. People start to notice. Not because you're loud, but because your stillness speaks louder than any noise. Some may call you cold, but that's only because they don't understand. What they see as detachment is actually discipline. You've stopped giving away your peace of mind like it's free candy. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." And when you truly know yourself, when you live rooted in that inner strength, no one else's opinion can knock you off course. You're not being rude by protecting your energy. You're being wise. You've unplugged the panel. You've reclaimed the controls. And in a world addicted to chaos and reaction, that calm you've built, that's your superpower. Here's the twist. The world doesn't actually want you to be calm. It thrives when you're reactive, when you're impulsive, easily offended, constantly triggered. That keeps you buying, scrolling, arguing, keeps the system spinning. But when you stop feeding it, when you stop giving away your attention and energy, you break the cycle. You stop being the puppet and start becoming the master of your own reality. This isn't philosophy. This is Stoicism in practice. Every time you choose not to react, you're training your mind. Every time you protect your peace, you reinforce your freedom. And in the quiet space between what happens and how you respond, that's where your real power begins. Now, some people will say that staying calm means you've stopped caring, that you're passive, distant, emotionally unavailable. Let's clear that up right now. Real detachment isn't about caring less. It's about caring right. It means refusing to let every little thing hijack your attention. Because if you react to everything, you lose the energy to focus on anything that actually matters. The Stoics had a word for this: apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, but a state of powerful inner calm, where your soul remains untouched by external chaos. The world moves around you, but it doesn't move through you. Picture yourself as a tree in the wind. The wind blows, the leaves rustle, but the roots, unshaken. That's what Stoic detachment feels like. So what's step one? Observe, don't absorb. Let's say you walk into a room and feel the tension people are snapping. The mood's heavy. The old version of you might soak it up and become defensive without even knowing why. But the wiser version? You recognize the tension, but you don't let it enter you. You say, okay, they're going through something. And you move on. It's not yours to carry. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And it hits hard because most of what bothers us isn't personal. It's projection. Now let's talk about silence. Master the pause. When someone throws shade, we're conditioned to react to defend ourselves, to prove our worth. But what if, instead of reacting, you just paused? A breath, a beat, a moment of stillness. Not because you're afraid, but because you're in control. That space between what they say and what you do, that's where your power lives. Marcus Aurelius nailed it. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That pause, that's your power to revoke. Because here's the truth: drama feeds on attention. Gossip only spreads when you bite. Arguments only escalate when you light the fuse. Toxic people only win when you give them energy. So starve the drama, don't feed the chaos. Aristotle once said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. But here's the twist: it's not about silence for approval. It's silence for strength. You're not avoiding conflict. You're just refusing to fuel nonsense. Let's be honest, this isn't easy. Especially in a world where emotional outbursts are rewarded, where the loudest voice often gets the spotlight. But that spotlight? It's a sugar high. It fades. It drains you. The real strength? It's in quiet clarity. It's in choosing what matters. Socrates taught that self-control is the foundation of wisdom. And he wasn't wrong. Because when you control your reactions, you're not just avoiding problems, you're building depth. You're building character. So, no, being unbothered doesn't make you cold. It means you've grown. It means you know your peace is too expensive to give away. You've realized, not every situation deserves your voice. Not every insult needs a response. Some things, they're just noise. And when you stop dancing to the chaos fades. So, here's your mindset shift. Not everything is about you. Not every tone, delay, or look is a personal attack. And even if it is, that doesn't mean it deserves your energy. You get to choose what enters your mind, what takes space in your day. And the more you practice that, the stronger you get, the more grounded you become, until the world spins but you stay still. So when someone says, "You've changed," smile. Because yes, you have. You've stopped being pulled into every fire and started walking through the flames without getting burned. That's what it means to be untouchable. That's what it means to live like a Stoic. Let's pick up where we left off, because learning to pause before you react is just the beginning. The real breakthrough happens when you rewrite the code that runs your mind. Picture it. You've been running on autopilot your whole life. Someone hits your insecurity button, and boom, you spiral. A comment hits a nerve, and suddenly you're defending yourself like your life depends on it. These are the installed scripts you've been carrying for years. But what if you could rewrite those scripts? What if the next time stress hits, you didn't panic, you just breathed? One deep breath. No scrambling, no drama, just calm. What if criticism landed, and instead of rushing to justify yourself, you simply smiled? Not out of weakness, but because you've stopped letting other people's opinions own you. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And when you down, you no longer need to prove your self-criticism loses its sting. You're not trying to be someone else anymore. You've already accepted the truth of who you are." Reprogramming your emotional responses doesn't mean becoming numb. It means becoming free. Every time you interrupt the automatic reaction and choose the opposite, calm instead of chaos, grace instead of defensiveness, you're carving a new mental pathway. You're teaching your brain, we don't do panic anymore. We don't do drama. We do presence. We do power. We do peace. So ask yourself, what story are you telling right now? Because every emotion is tethered to a story. If you see yourself as the victim, you'll carry pain. If you see yourself as the villain, you'll carry shame. But if you start seeing yourself as the hero of your own story, then every insult becomes fuel. Every setback, a plot twist, every tough moment, a chapter in your rise. Plato once said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." And that victory starts with owning your story. The next time something triggers you, ask, what frame am I using here? Because you might not be able to control the facts, but you can always choose the frame. And that choice, made consistently over time, will transform your emotional landscape. Now let's talk about one of the sharpest tools in your emotional arsenal: the ability to disarm people without lifting a finger. There's a kind of power that doesn't come from shouting back, but from staying still and smiling when others expect you to fight. They say, "You're too quiet." You reply, "I like my peace." They push, "You don't care, do you?" You say, "Not about things that don't matter." You think you're better than everyone. You smile, "I think I'm better than who I was yesterday." You're not dodging the jab. You're catching it mid-air and turning it into nothing. That's what Socrates meant when he said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training." It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. The same goes for your mind. Why grow old without ever training your emotions? Why spend your whole life ruled by reactions? Because when you stop caring about the noise, you create space to care deeply about what actually matters. You stop wasting energy defending yourself. You invest that energy in building yourself. You protect your peace like it's sacred because it is. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You stop trying to prove things to people who already made up their minds. You stop entertaining drama that exists only to pull you down. And you start living differently. You walk into rooms with presence, not pressure. You show up to conversations with clarity, not fear. You don't just weather storms, you become the calm inside them. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about the right things. That shift? It's rare. Most people never get there. But if you keep practicing these small, subtle shifts, if you keep questioning your reactions, rewriting your mental scripts, choosing peace over pride, then one day, you'll look back and realize You didn't just survive life. You mastered it. Because when you stop letting the world control your reactions, you don't become colder. You become clearer, calmer, stronger. That's the kind of quiet power no one can take from you. And once you taste it, there's no going back. If this message spoke to something inside you, there's another video on the screen right now that will take you even deeper. Trust me, you'll want to see it. Thank you for being here, for thinking deeper, and for being part of Stoic Journal. Until next time, stay grounded and keep walking the quiet path.